Old Route 66 in Amarillo, Texas has turned into an antique destination. The old natatorium is an antique mall. Bluebonnet Hill, Mima and Papa's, Antiques Plus, Coin Exchange. Right down in the next block we've got Alley Cats and some other shops. But this one has been around for 40 years. I did not know I was going to be in Amarillo today, or I'd have let some viewers know because they've been asking me to come. I'm only going to get to show this one shop, but we will come back and do more later.
I first came in here probably 20 years ago. I have found something cool here every time I've shopped here, and I'm excited to show you all.
A few different generations of orange jewelry, pressed celluloid at the top that looks like coral. There are polished coral-colored glass beads. Those two pieces are 1940s and 50s. This orange set is 1960s. It's fun with the earrings. Very pretty lamp here with the robed woman holding it up. It looks like something from about the 1920s. Not sure what the price is. Look at this splendid amphora bust from Czechoslovakia around 1900. She's priced at $900. Very fun pastel dress clip from the 1930s. It's funny that every time I come to Amarillo, it rains because it's actually a very dry place. Because of that, you see fur hats because when it's not raining, fur and feather hats hold up pretty well. And also some wonderful mesh purses in this case, all priced in the $150 to $200 range. Mandalian and Whiting and Davis out of the 1920s. Great deco designs. The one on the lower right is German. Also an old-fashioned parasol. Parasols were for sun rather than rain. You can tell because this would immediately get soaked if it was in rain. And what a wonderful old handle. There are people who collect parasol handles because when the parasols broke, a lot of people kept the handles. But this one's nice because it's all there for $150. Ah, the working nut display from the 1950s. I just sold mine. They say this one works too. Manhattan glass. The pink with the feet is the original issue from the 1930s. They mainly came in clear, but pink was an option, and people really loved the pink. This is a fun set. This is Santa Anita ware. A woman named Breni, B-R-E-N-I, was their designer. But this is the big tureen with all of the little side dishes. Usually you just see the side dishes. Made in about 1950 in California. The Edison reproducer is a nice piece for $1,500. It does have its original cloth, the velvet and the grill. The nice thing about the reproducers was that you could record on them on that cylinder disc. This dealer is retiring, and they are 40% off. And there's advertising, and well, we know advertising's hot, so I'm going to take a minute with this. But it's not all just advertising. They also have these Murano pieces. With the discount, these would be in the $36 range. Ruby is a harder color to find. A big old temperature gauge. It says new old stock. Air control, summer, winter, everything you need. But what car is this for? Let's see if we can figure out. Patent date is 1930s, but they would have used this same type through the 1940s. Maybe this was aftermarket because cars were retrofitted with air conditioning in the 1940s and 50s if they didn't already come with it. 20-drawer weather vane box with the discount is $54, which is a pretty good price. They also have a bunch of Winfield, various patterns from the 1950s. I've always thought this was really fun, and it was very good quality. There's our mark on the bottom. This is when they were in Santa Monica, 1950 to 62. And that one with the discount would be $18. Some nice McCoy up here. I like that this one has the original sticker on it. You don't see those too often. And these calla lilies with the discount are going to be around $30. Behind we have Swan Base, which came in many different colors. And then another nice floral up here. Old catalogs for machine shops and especially car repair can be pretty collectible. These are all priced about right. Nash, which is known for skateboards, also made these nice water skis in the Gemini line in the 1960s. Just sold a set. They weren't this model though. Before the discount, they were $125. After the discount, around $75, which is a pretty good deal because I got $150 for the ones I sold. Old die case has its original Beavers parts and machine tag on it from Hereford, Texas, selling Ace dies in the 1950s. This is priced at about $150 with the discount. Some nice things in this space. I really like the double inkwell with the elk in it. Barbara Eden did more than just Genie. I just sold a slightly earlier Funny Jungle Land with all the moving pictures in it, where you mix and match, and all the animals turn into different things. They're very cute. This one has a more glossy print to it. Oh, it is in fact a 1980s release, so a reproduction. I've always liked children's dishes, but this one's especially appealing. It's Jager from Germany or Austria in the 1920s. And look at that stopper. $50 on that one. It's rather unusual. This is a nice Barovier Italian glass piece from the mid-20th century. It is definitely Barovier with those twists in the gold. They are asking $225. Mother mottos were very popular in the 1920s and 30s. Mottos in general were, but Mother's Day was a particular time to give them. This one is $17.50. Some cute little shell art sold as souvenirs. This one's from Corpus Christi, Texas, way on the other side of the state, with the turtle climbing the shell. $7.50. This one also made in Corpus Christi. Being a seacoast tourism place, that makes sense. I've had these before in Florida. This one is actually from Aransas Pass here in Texas, though. $7.50 on that as well. What a nice collection of door stops. The one on the right is Hubley. These are all various flower baskets. National Foundry in front. I like this one with all the fruit in it. There's a small Hubley fruit. Very popular for home use around the 19-teens and 20s. Waverly Studio did the pansies here. The windmill is another National Foundry. Hubley did the Dark Cosmos in the back. These are all priced in the $100 to $200 range. These bronze pirate women are wonderful. 1920s, they look like armor bronze, but this is actually a company called K&O. And they are just fantastic with the polychrome, priced at $395. This is a piece of Cambridge Crown Tuscan. A beautiful cornucopia with the shell feet. 1930s and 40s. They were a little bit ahead of the curve. By the 50s, Jeanette Glass came out with their shell paint. It's a little milkier and not quite as expensive, but very nice. I have always spotted mid-century things in here, and here's a bunch of Empoli glass, along with a lamp that is only $50 that is absolutely of the era. This is very cute. Celluloid started to be done in color by the 1920s and 30s, and this little set, they say, is a toy vanity set, but I would say probably more just for a child. $27.50. With the original presentation box. Two of the biggest spaghetti poodles I've ever seen, $85. Well, the next state to the east is Oklahoma, where Frankoma was from. So we are inclined to see a lot of Frankoma in this area. I've always been a fan of the happy yellow glazes. This piece is the older clay, the Ada clay, in the beige with the typewriter stamp Frankoma mark. That's why it's priced at $59. It dates before 1955. After 1955, they moved the factory to Sapulpa, and the clay was this brick red, and you'll sometimes see these labels as well. Well, in Texas, you see interesting things done with steer horns, even being placed on the front of cars. But this is a really cool piece because this is something that somebody spent a lot of time making. They used leather to wrap it. They tacked all the pieces. There's bone, lots of horn. It's a wall rack with a little mirror. Hello, everybody. And it is priced at $280. Well, somebody went to California at some point because this is from the Hotel del Coronado. Very famous old hotel on Coronado Beach, just outside of San Diego. It's still there, built in the 1880s. Some Like It Hot was filmed there. $18 on that piece. And some other cafe ware next to it. This is from Chicken in the Rough. I always loved the rooster with the golf club. Looks like he had a fit and broke it. These were made by Syracuse as well. Priced at $48. We're going to head into the next room. There's a lot of rooms in this place, and it is packed tight. Pyrex, Moon and Stars, jadeite glass, all the things that we like seeing in antique malls. This particular pattern of Fire King jadeite with the flowers in the garlands is called Alice. They also have swirl and a lot of the more plain cafe ware, and the Jane Ray with the rays. Love the Blanco Genie bottle. The blue one there, great color. It's one of the smaller size ones. Priced at $300, but they are hard to find now. Next to the Camargue pieces with the nice big flowers is this wonderful bird. See if I can get it out safely. It is a flower frog, a flower arranger, just a very large one. They're asking $75. It is Czech, as most of these were from the 1930s. Another handmade thing, this is decoupage from the 1970s when that was very popular, but they've done it in the shape of Texas, and of course Texas was big into ranching and big into various attempts to perfect barbed wire. So we have the names and dates of all sorts of different patterns on here. I love showing phones, but the one that really jumps out is this pink one. The number 202 was rarely done in this color. So this one is really quite scarce, and they have it priced like it because they have $385 on it as opposed to $75, which is a pretty normal price for this one. Mistakes can be wonderful. When Winslow Anderson worked for Blanco and he introduced the chartreuse color in the early 50s, he was making this as a handled tall bottle, and it slumped in the kiln. And when it came out, he said, you know what, I like that shape. Let's put it in the line. It ended up winning Corning Glass's Design of the Year award. So it just goes to show you sometimes mistakes are happy ones. What a cool Czech glass lamp from the 1930s with the elephants. Haven't seen this one before. That's a nice quilted shade. They are asking $750 for it because it's part of a pair. Lots of Imperial candle wick, and that's not surprising because Imperial made 641 different items in this line, including the big punch set there. This one even has its original glass ladle. I always like the fan base. One thing about wars is it sent people from one part of the country to another. This is the training battalion at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, but I'll bet at least one of those people was from here, and that's how it ended up back here. Priced at $150, yard-longs of military battalions typically do sell for good money. Here's another interesting handmade thing from New Mexico, right next door. The first woman was made from the rib of a man, and all other women I vow, but this one was made from an old shoulder blade of a little New Mexico cow. I would say from the colors it's 1960s. That is very peculiar. And this piece of folk art, they are asking $149. Vernon Kilns did several different color combinations in stripes right around 1950. This one is homespun. Organdy is where it's just the yellow and brown. Tam O'Shanter has the green and yellow without the brown. Calico is maroon and gray. There were several in the line. They're fun to collect. They just have very nice Art Deco style to them because they used a lot of their 1930s shapes to make them. I bought a large pink vase similar to this Italian vase from the 60s in this very mall and made a lot of money on it. And this one's priced fairly low as well, only $27. I think it should be priced somewhere in the $65 to $85 range, so I think that might be my first purchase. Whereas this satin glass vase with the orange to green tone was made by Pilgrim Glass around 1970. It's a hard line to find. However, this was a decanter and it's missing its stopper. It's only $29. It's too bad it doesn't have everything. These were my first skates when I was a child. So I guess that tells you that I'm a little older than some of you. Amazing to think they're $45 now. They were great though. You could expand them as the kid got bigger. So I got to use them for a few years. Fry Glass out of New York did some really nice art glass in this faux valware, which has an iridescence that is a little bit like Sabino. If you notice, it gets a little bit of a golden color to it. But they made a lot of just regular kitchenware out of it as well. And these pieces are very collectible now. Price is $140 on this one. $25 each on the little custard glasses. And then this is a cute set here. Dutchware. These are by Knowles, China. Roseville did a lot of this too, around 1920. Well, sometimes a chapeau is the perfect thing on a rainy day. This one is $65 because it's a nice 1920s velvet. It is a fun place to be on a rainy day. If you're having fun too, well, click that thumbs up to let YouTube know. And also, please subscribe if you haven't. That way you can click the bell to be notified of future videos, and we'll hang out all over in cool places like this. Here is a fun and funky bowl. Italian glass, but to look like a fish. Love the color. Great design, $69. Once upon a time, there was Bauer Pottery in Los Angeles, and they came up with ringware around 1930. They wanted the colors to reflect patio living in California and the new casual attitudes, and they really hit it right. Ringware is very collectible and was very influential because 6 years later, Homer Laughlin came out with Fiesta, which is still being made today, based on concentric ring patterns as well. Here's the classic pitcher from Vernon. This one, if you see on the bottom, has the mark for the Tam O'Shanter line. In the 1940s, however, Vernon made a lot of this sort of ware because they were trying to step in where the English companies were no longer able to supply things by Spode and other companies that look like this. This particular pattern is hibiscus on the San Fernando blank. They have a nice extensive set of it here. The tureen is especially hard to find, priced at $350. Isn't this nice? Van Briggle lamp. Shade needs just a little bit of new banding, but the workers would actually go out on their lunch breaks and find these flowers and the milkweed, and then they would make the lamp. So the original Van Briggle shades always had the butterflies. That's a very pretty piece, priced in the $300 range. Lots of vintage kitchenware in here. In the 50s, things that had been just sort of plain in the Depression era started to get dressed up. And this is a good example. This has a 1950s patent date. This is the handy sift, which was made for many years. And this one shows all the wonderful things you're going to make with that flour that you're sifting. It's in great shape too. Priced at $48. Great selection of Red Wing Bob White, a pattern I've sold many times. I have a few pieces in stock now. My favorite is the hors d'oeuvre holder. Let's go see what's upstairs. Wow, someone's stepping out. Look at all those sequins. I like every piece I see here. So they have a whole room full of vintage, and it looks like this room really is vintage. No mixing in new stuff, which I like to see. We are in Texas, so we're seeing Enid Collins and other craft purses based on Enid Collins. When you see the crescent, those were done after 1970 when she sold the firm. Love the owl and the butterfly. And look at these birds. Now this one is a jewel tone handbag, a craft version of similar that you would make yourself at home. The Collins purses are priced around $85. And the kit purses around $45. It really is a pleasure to see real vintage fashion in a place. And I like this little back room here. We have everything from Girl Scout uniforms to this wonderful Victorian dress, as well as a bridal section. And you could wear these today for a lot less than what a new bridal gown would cost. Fur coats are definitely something we see. It does get cold here. There's actually snow on the ground. This one was made here in Amarillo, $295. If you'd rather make your own, well, they have the patterns. Lawton Gonder started out working for Shawnee and then went out on his own. This one has a nice sticker on it from his factory studio in Zanesville, Ohio. It is signed on the bottom. It's hard to see in the glaze. This is an unusual piece. Haven't seen that form very often. I like what somebody did with this old dressing screen, using a lot of Victorian trade cards and other ephemera to decorate. What a wonderful chenille, and definitely something you'd expect to see in Texas from the 1950s with the bucking bronco. Price on that is $175. And they do have the blow molds here too. The drummer boy is kind of fun. I haven't seen that. I like the camel. And here's one that has the actual baby Jesus with it. They apparently have the entire set for sale at one price or individual prices. Look at all these nice 1950s pattern table linens, all rolled up neatly here. $45 for that one. Prices between $35 and $50 are typical. Ron of Texas and other companies did these wonderful Siamese cat TV lamps. $67.50 is a pretty fair price. Carlton Ware made a lot of really nice things over the years in England. And this very orange, very 1960s looking piece is an interesting example of theirs from the modern era. $99 for the cigarette box and ashtray. A whole lot of Westmoreland blue satin in various colors from the dark to the light. They also have a boutique called the Route 66 Market, because we are right on Route 66 and a lot of people passing through just want souvenirs to remember they were here. The tuxedo-wearing drunks at the lamppost, very popular 1930s, 40s, 50s design in barware. This one is carved out of actual wood, priced at $85. Nice to see some 1910s era carnival glass. Very pretty Millersburg peacock and urn bowl back there. Fenn's dragon and lotus is a popular pattern. And I've always been partial to these shells. This one was by the Dugan Company and is priced at $95. Even light bulbs joined the Zodiac movement in the late 60s and early 70s. This one is Aquarius with the filament that would light, priced at $25. Wonderful turquoise cuffs in there. I really like this one because it's made for tourists, but it's made with leaves and beads and lots of dimension and different shape than the usual. They have some very pretty squash blossom necklaces. I like this one with the coral.
Frankoma did some surprising modern lines, especially in this V series of collector vases, decanters, and other things made between 1969 and 1983. Editions were between $3,000 and $7,500 each. They're very mid-century modern. The flame glaze in particular is super hot.
The one on the left is a Mohawk liquor from the 1930s. Speaking of the 30s, I love blue-mirrored furniture. I used to have a very similar coffee table and end table. Finding it in good shape is the trick. They want $175 for this one. In fact, all of them are $175 each. What a fun and colorful collection of carnival chalkware from the 1930s and 40s. My favorite one is the Sailor Girl in the back there. But these horses are pretty cool as well for $65. There's Wimpy from Popeye. Sometimes you would see cartoon characters in these. This is definitely a lot of stuff packed in here, but they've had 40 years to accumulate it all. Speaking of yonder pottery, here are a whole bunch of pieces priced at about $15 and up, done in the 1940s and 50s primarily. They did some pretty fun designs. And they did a few really unusual figurals that you never see. Great old rack. The art books actually sell if you ever see the Foster ones. But they have a bunch of other things in here, including Turf and Sport Digest from the 1940s. Picture Scope. The town where sin is legal. And New Western. We expect to see a lot of Western stuff in this part of the country. My kind of furniture to take to Florida. Ooh, and look at the huge resin grapes. Now the piece on the left here is a Haywood Wakefield end table. And then they have a match over there, along with some pretty cool 50s lamps with new shades. I like this piece too. This is Coda Wood, the oyster chair from the 1950s. They want $1,100 on that. It needs upholstery, unfortunately, but it's a great piece. And for true antique, well, here is a needled cheese dish. I suspect this is English. You see the cow on the embossing there and ready to be milk. This likely does not have a mark because it looks like it's pre-1891. Unusual piece for $195. I can't say I've ever seen that pattern on a cheese dome before. These fern stands were made by both Haywood Wakefield and Lloyd's looms in wicker in the 1920s. This one's a Haywood Wakefield because the Lloyd looms tend to have a little bit of coloration around the edges. They have this at $225. 1930s era Bosch and Lomb optometrist's outfit here to inspect your eyes and, wow, do pretty much everything. Priced at $1,200. These are out of the old passenger trains, and this one's a real one. We see fakes a lot, but this one is heavy brass. It has some corrosion, commensurate with age, and it has a lighter color on the back because this was hung for many years, so it should have patina on the places that were not up against the wall. Priced at $195. Burns Easter candies dressed in beautiful packages, and she is lovely. Out of about 1940, priced at $50. A nice large handsome wave crest box this is with the blue floral from about 1900. A nice case full of old toys here. Nylint from the 1970s with the cab over design. Wyandotte from the 1940s with that deco design. And then a bunch of rubber cars as well. A nice case of Yadro. They have the nativity scene, the entire thing for $1,100. They have some large and more complicated figures. That's where you start to see values go up. I really like this one with the swan and the woman riding. And of course the animals are always very cute too. And I see they have boxes for most of the Yadro. Yadro collectors really do like to have the boxes. That is a plus for value. Beam is a company that is spelled B-O-E-H-M, but their studios made a lot of very naturalistic looking birds. Several of their plates and one of their figures are in the governor's mansion in Washington and were subject to one of my appraisals. Look at this very pretty vest. All beaded, 1890s. It's got that wonderful mesh side. That is gorgeous for $175. Nice to see some Van Briggle in here. I like the shells, but the piece that to me is the more unusual is the hanging basket priced at $195. The spud vase may seem shocking at $600, but it is Cluel, a very hard to find ceramic from the arts and crafts era, well over 100 years ago now. Oh, that's very nice. I don't see Ruby very often at all. And it has the paper label. Wow, that's really neat. Great piece. Yes, they have some very nice pottery in this store. They have a lot of nice things in general. I like this Rookwood bar stein. Made for a club. Those are unusual. $1,500. That's an early artist sign piece. Because it was for the Commercial Club of Cincinnati, they commissioned it from Rookwood, which was made right down the street. And then this is a later piece. The pencil caddy with the bird on the bottom. One of my viewers collects nothing but the white Rookwood of this era, so I'll have to make sure she sees this. I've always been a fan of Weller's woodland designs from the 1910s. I really like double vases with the fenestration, in this case vines between, but I also really like the double vase with the owl on top, priced at $300 each. And they are that hard to find. Bureau of Mines worker badges from the 1940s and 50s. Helium activity, that sounds like an interesting thing, but they all talked funny. Another very pretty mesh purse with the roses on it. This one is $95. That's pretty reasonable for what it is. There's a pretty amazing squash blossom necklace done with mercury dimes. Putting coins in these became popular in the mid-60s, about the time that the silver coins were taken out of production. But I think this piece may be a little older. Mercury dimes were issued from the teens to the 40s. This Navajo necklace with the claws is quite amazing as well. Priced at $6,500. There's an older piece in the middle. The swastika was a good luck symbol for the Native Americans until Hitler expropriated it. So that piece is going to date before the Second World War. I always liked the watch bands. These became popular in the 50s and 60s and 70s. That's pretty good. Gee, if you got that for third place, imagine what you would get for first. That is really nice, and that is 1910s. Wonderful sterling and bronze combination, and these are by the Heinz Company, and there is your mark on the bottom. Some other companies did them too, but Heinz is the most regarded. And what was this team doing?
10 pins.
Oh, 10-pin tournament. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for showing me those. And here's some other ones that were just regular vases by the same company. They're just beautiful. So well done. Definitely a very popular piece for the arts and crafts set. In the process of finding that, we have come into the last room. This place really does go on and on. Now there's a bargain, $17 for that dresser jar. That is Chase. And at that price, I think that will come home with me. The Remington Guide Silver Bullet Knife is going to be made in probably the late 70s or early 80s. Limited editions started to become very popular as people started collecting them rather than using them. And they can be expensive. This one is $250 with the sterling mount. It looks like Leek from a distance, but this is actually Royal Copenhagen. They had the glass pieces made for them. Priced at $125, a lot less than a Lalique piece would be. A neat primitive yarn winder. Somebody made this out on the farm because you made what you needed. That's what's fun about primitives. And it looks like everything still interlocks. And that gear will turn this and wind your yarn for you. One of the stranger and more interesting Laguna pottery pieces, Brayton Laguna made this piece towards the end of their production in the 1950s. It's fun to see this clock in the original box. $60. The box makes a lot of impact on the price. And then this wall pocket with the dog is very cute. You see the salt and pepper shakers a lot more than the toothbrush holder that hangs. A bunch of the Ukagko rooster. Nice to see a whole lot of pieces in one place. Japanese import from the 60s was very popular and is collectible today. $35 on the pitcher. It just goes and goes. There's one of those Ingrid party balls. I always pick these up whenever I see them. They usually sell for $35 or $40. When you open them up, they store all the bowls, the plates, and cups, and everything you need for a picnic, all in that little space. They also have a book section, including a lot of old reference books. I do recommend old reference books. The prices may have changed, but the information is so well studied, particularly when you look at something like Covell's, who are still giving us information today. And they have the vinyl section. Grand Funk, the Beach Boys, the Village People, Paul Revere and the Raiders with their last big hit, the Animals with their first big hit. Old comic rack, well, it has old comics and a lot of Western ones because we're in the right place for it. Roy Rogers, the Cisco Kid. I see prices in the $20 to $50 range on a lot of these. And how nice to have a source for lampshades that are not reproduction. They have a bunch of Fenton. They have Art Deco. Some really nice satin glass, reverse painted. Lots of different styles for your bridge lamp or your overhead lighting if you're missing yours. It wouldn't be Texas if you didn't see games like this. Ideals, gunfight at the OK Corral in the original box. That's pretty cool. Another fun piece of McCoy that most people have never seen is the Ram vase. They're asking $70 for that, but I almost never run into that one. Because they're in the middle of an antique district, they have information on how to find other shops. Well, this place has certainly been a lot of fun. I barely scratched the surface, and they have really good quality things here. So if you're traveling through Amarillo, the Antique District on Route 66 is a definite antique destination.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.